I am proud to stand here today and support Bill de Blasio to be the next mayor of the city of New York.
There is nothing more beautiful than democratic unity.
And what Bill Thompson is saying today is he's going to put aside his own personal ambition, his own personal hopes, his own personal ideas, in honor and in respect of that shared vision. And we applaud him and we congratulate him for that decision.
Obviously a tough day for Bill Thompson, and what a difference just a week makes. If many of you were with us late Tuesday night here after the polls closed, Bill Thompson was singing a very different tune.
3 more weeks, 3 more weeks, 3 more weeks, 3 more weeks, 3 more weeks.
All right, that was then and this is now. Since that night, pressure had been mounting on Thompson to get out of the race. And at last count, de Blasio was over that 40% threshold by 0.3% here. And while Thompson was sitting at a little over 26%. What's more, de Blasio also did better across the board in traditionally black, white, and Hispanic areas. You know, we look, Dominic, as to the whys of it, and there's many reasons. We always thought that the Thompson campaign never really communicated any enthusiasm or connected. It seemed like he got all the wrong endorsements given this election season, and where the, I mean, certainly stop and frisk was a big issue, but he got the police, he got the firefighters endorsement, he got endorsements here that didn't really seem to do him a ton of good. But I always think when you lose by that small a margin, or at least get into a runoff, there's got to be a lot of second guessing about what he should have or didn't do.
Bill Thompson, and I was looking at his face there today, he's not a happy camper. Normally when I text him, he'll text me right back. But this morning when I texted him at about 8 a.m., there was no response. So that's when I knew that he was throwing in the towel. You know, this one has to hurt. Bill Thompson is a proud African American. And the bottom line, if you look at the numbers, the black community felt that there was a more progressive candidate in this race. And with friends like Al Sharpton, who needs enemies? Because at the end of the day, Sharpton did Bill Thompson in. There's no other way to put it.
And if I can interrupt you for 1 second, Dominic, our lead story that we came with, that shooting rampage in Washington, I want to take you back to our nation's capital. We're going to take a live look in right now. Let's go back to the press conference for the latest developments.
We again ask the public to look at the photos of Aaron Alexis and contact the FBI with any and all information. The photos are available on FBI.gov, and all information can be reported to 1-800-CALL-FBI. This investigation is still very active, and we will continue to work with our partners to track down every bit of information that we learn. The assistance of the public is vital in investigations of this type, as we try to piece together the recent movements and contacts of the subject. No piece of information is too small. Please call to report any and all information to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. For all of our local folks that are following the news coverage here, there is misinformation that is getting out through a variety of different sources. I will say to our friends in the media, if you have sources inside of the law enforcement agencies that are reporting, they're not official reports unless they come through this body or from the FBI. So what unfortunately happens is law enforcement sources will hear something. As that gets passed around, it changes and oftentimes is not completely accurate and then is getting reported in the press. So please, if it is not coming from this official body or from the FBI, it is not confirmed. There is a lot of misinformation getting out. We are trying to make sure factual information is being pushed out through all of our MPD sources and through city sources on our Twitter and our DC Alert and our all of our contacts, and we make sure that the press gets any updates as they go out. So please, if you have sources reporting something, if you can try and verify through us.
Okay, and that the DC police chief that you're just hearing from right there, and then the federal agencies that are involved as well from the FBI you heard right before that. Short answer is right now they're still looking for more information. That certainly leads you to believe that this is not only an active investigation, but they are still looking for if there was anyone else involved. And as we mentioned, there may be a local connection. There are reports that the law enforcement in our neck of the woods is in Bed-Stuy. The shooter originally a Queens native. Okay, coming back to politics in our region, and Dominic, we were talking about Thompson, and really I think he can pinpoint one area, at least in the primary, where he got hurt was he didn't get out in front on stop and frisk, and Bill de Blasio did. And while many people were saying, well, Ray Kelly may be a net asset on this and all this, he either saw it first or he took a chance. Whatever he did, Bill de Blasio read it right here, because the electorate in huge numbers said no more. And with an active case that was going on during the primary, he decided to say, if I'm your mayor, there's not a little part of this, I'm getting rid of it. And apparently that's what the primary voters wanted to hear.
And it also didn't hurt the fact that he has a black son with an afro that he could put in a commercial and say, see, this could happen to my son. That resonated with the black community. That commercial, the black community will always remember. But the question is, at what extent? Because Bill Thompson, all the Democrats were almost alike, Richard. And at the end of the day, the black community did not deliver for Thompson. I guess put the other way around, he didn't do a good job to seek their support.
With friends like Al Sharpton, you know, if you're Bill Thompson right now, that hurt him. Or at least you would think it would have given him a half a point or something, at least get him to run.
They've known each other a very long time. And at the end of the day, Sharpton said, I don't know you anymore, period.
I wonder if Bill Thompson knew what the stop and frisk verdict was going to be, if he would have changed his position or at least changed his approach to stop and frisk throughout the campaign.
You gotta think he would have.
I'm not so sure, because I think he wanted a practical, applicable way of dealing with stop and frisk. He seems to be
Andrew,
a very
what was his best moment on the subject? You remember, what was the best moment for Bill Thompson on that issue? Remember that? They had that
with
panel or whatever, where John Liu pushed him, and he went off script. It was the first time he saw passion out of Thompson, basically saying, how dare you educate me about being black? And it resonated. And I thought that was the human Bill Thompson, the guy that we see during the commercial breaks and everything else. Smart, competent guy, extremely likable, sober-minded, but it was too much. And I think, Jeannie, we remember 4 years ago when we were shocked how close he came to beating Bloomberg in the general. You get the sense that he thought he could coast through the primary here and be the next mayor.
Yeah, you know, I always had the sense with both Quinn and Thompson that they wanted to get to that general, and they didn't feel they had to fight out the primary. And de Blasio was the only leading of the three who really knew who was voting, and we all know who was voting, and how you had to get them to your side. And I don't know if you agree, but in the last few days I've been thinking that both Thompson and Quinn suffered from an issue of race and gender, where, you know, Thompson didn't want to go so far out in front and stop and frisk because he knew he was going to get in a general and have to appeal to moderates. And Quinn, the same thing on different issues with gender and homosexuality. And so it really does constrain a candidacy. They didn't see that in the short term they needed to win this primary.
What's the first rule they always say? First get in the general,
Get in the general. And de Blasio, you got to give him credit because he did. And Quinn and Thompson.
He ran a primary campaign, and those guys ran general campaigns.
They ran these general campaigns that were not hot. They were lukewarm. They didn't have messages, and they kind of were trying to coast through.
Andrew asked this morning, and I think I know your answer. Do you think de Blasio is going to have a problem because he's too progressive in a general?
He's going to have more of a problem than either Quinn or Thompson would have had. He's either going to have to start walking back some of the positions he took in the primary, or he's going to be open to the charges of, you're taking us back to the era of David Dinkins.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is, what's the registration? 5-1 Democrat in the city? I mean,
6-1.
6-1, right?
But Bloomberg 3 times and Giuliani twice is all the evidence you need that voters in New York City are perfectly prepared to vote anything other than D if they think that's the best candidate.
If there ever was a definition of rhino Republican name only, it's Bloomberg. I don't know that he really is a referendum on Democrats. I think compared to, you know, the Mark Greens of the world.
It's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily saying that, you know, Bloomberg was such a Republican and that's the way the voters went. It's that they're not necessarily wedded to the Democratic nominee if they feel like they're going to get more of what they want from the other ones.
You think voters in the general might say, you know what, I may not love Joe Loder, but I'll feel safer with the Joe Loder mayoralty than Bill de Blasio with a safety aspect?
Definitely.
You think so?
Definitely. Not only that, voters are going to say, hey, wait a minute. De Blasio's owned by Al Sharpton. And I mean literally owned. Do I want that type of candidate in
We're
Gracie
gonna put a race
Mansion.
card on Bill de Blasio.
And the other thing, though, I think you have to watch out for are events. The reason we've had this string of Republicans and independents are events, and Loda could be helped by an event. And the segment we just talked about, the lead story, an event like that of violence that makes people feel insecure about living in the city could work for Loda in a way it's not going to work for de Blasio. Now, we don't want that to happen, but that's absolutely the kind of crisis that could change the numbers from 6 to 1 and give somebody like Loda, I mean, it's probably a long shot at this point, but give him some kind of, base on which to run.
Well, the race for City Hall, we're going to continue on that after the break because Dominic sat down one-on-one with Joe Loda, and as always here, we ask you to be part of our program. So go over to Facebook and Twitter and make your opinion heard. Do you think Joe Loda could be the city's next mayor? Is he electable? I know Dominic says yes. When we come back, we'll hear from his conversation with the man himself on what he would do if elected when he would get to Gracie Mansion. Our fellow back right after this.